Looks like we're seeing a little sun on this extremely getting warmer Michigan morning. It's great to see that we're going to see 50 degrees on Friday here in Michigan in the wintertime. I mean, can you ask for a nicer start to the year than that? Pretty sure we're going to pay for this somewhere, though. Anyway, good morning, and thanks so much for joining me today as we take a look at the all-new Paragon Collaboration Center. Seeing a lot of familiar names popping in. We got a couple more people just joining us. Good morning, Janice. Good morning, Mary Rose. All right, got a few more just getting connected, but we'll go ahead and start off with some introductions. First and foremost, my name is Colleen DeLang. I am the Director of Education here at My Real Source. A little bit about why I like teaching these classes is basically I put these classes together around all of the things I wish somebody would have taught me forever ago when I first got my real estate license 26 years ago now. It makes me feel old when I say that. But basically today I'm going to take you on a tour of the brand new Collaboration Center. I'm going to show you all the things that you probably didn't even know were hidden in there. And I'm going to show you three brand new things that we've recently added within the last week. And some of them are even getting better and better as we speak. So I'm going to tell you some new enhancements. And it looks like we do have everybody connected now, so we'll go ahead and get started. In your GoToWebinar panel, you will actually find a questions box. So if you do have any questions today, just type them right in that little questions box and it will pop up on my screen, and I'll go ahead and ask that question to the group and kind of answer depending on where we are. So feel free to type in questions. Don't feel like you have to hold them all to the end. I know as an agent, I usually try to hold my questions to the end and then I can't remember what I was going to ask. So feel free to go ahead and type them as we go. Where we're going to start today is I'm going to take you basically on the client side of the new Collaboration Center, and then I'm going to show you step by step how to set your clients up in the Collaboration Center so that you don't miss anything. All right, and just like one, if Mary Rose or Janice, if you could just pop in that questions box that you can see and hear me okay. Today's kind of an unusual day at my house. There's a demolition crew literally in the next room knocking out walls and removing a bathtub. So I'm just going to apologize if you hear any background noise. They're going to try to work with me and keep it as low as possible, but it is kind of an unusual day. So, but if anybody could just let me know that you can see and hear me okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Hoping you could see and hear me okay. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Olivia. Olivia, great to see you popping in. All right, so I am going to just take a look at my screen, and you should be able to see at this point the new Collaboration Center. And I'm going to turn off my fuzzy hair just so you can see more of the screen here. And basically what the Collaboration Center is a way to basically set up your clients so that you can basically put all their haves and wants, everything that that client is looking for. You can use all of those MLS fields to basically design a saved search. And then all you're going to do is marry a contact to it, and they're going to get any new properties that hit the market with their criteria. So the idea is it's kind of like a set it and forget it. If you remember that old Ron Popeil commercial, right? You want to basically put in a saved search, marry it to a contact record, and then anytime a new property that meets their criteria comes onto the market, it automatically shoots it out to you. Now, of course, that's great. And if we lived in a perfect world, real estate would always be that way. But I think we all know real estate is never perfect, and it's never in a perfect little line. So we have to have ways to give the agent a way to not only see what the client is doing, but we've got to have scenarios and workarounds for those maybe a little bit more challenging buyers. So let me give you an example of one of the first things I want to show you. So I had this just a gem of a lady. We were at the closing table, and you could just tell some of those people become your lifelong friends. You know, we have coffee all the time now, but we were closing up her house, and she said, my sister Helga just started to look, and I am going to actually send her your contact information. And I thought, you know what, wow, it doesn't get better than this, a referral right at the table, right? But then I kind of assumed that Helga was just going to be like this little sweet person I had been working with. No, actually, the complete opposite. Our second call went like this: Colleen, if you send me one more yellow-sided home, I am going to fire you and get another agent. I kid you not. That was her exact words. And first of all, I don't think she ever mentioned she didn't like yellow siding, but there is no button in the MLS that says, hey, remove all yellow-sided homes either. So there are those types of scenarios where we need to basically preview properties. So this would allow the property to then go to, let's say, Olivia as the realtor. Once Olivia looks at it and says, oh yeah, this doesn't have yellow siding, she can hit one button and it automatically goes to her client. So it's a way to have basically a little oversight. Even though we're automating it, there's still these great tools in here that allow us to automate it, but still have that oversight that we need, because let's face it, some of today's buyers can be a little challenging, right? And so it's a way that you can actually preview all of those properties first. The second thing I'm going to show you in here is another tool that just is one of those things that we have to have. Even though we're automating it, we, a lot of times as agents, we know what the client's going to buy even more than they do, right? And they may be looking over here, but you know they might end up over here, or they might be looking up to 250, but you know they're not going to get it until they hit 275, right? So a lot of times we as agents in our minds might come across a property that we know is perfect for them, even though it wasn't in their exact criteria. So another real life example, I was showing around a first time home buying couple, and I swear they said to me, if they said it one time, they said it 30. We're only going to live in St. Clair Shores. Colleen, only show us houses in St. Clair Shores that we like the parks, we like the area. We don't want to see anything outside of St. Clair Shores. So you know what happens. They bought outside of St. Clair Shores, right? That's what happens when they realize maybe that's not really in their price point. But the case scenario was a friend of mine, Dawn Waldorf, she actually listed a house 3 streets out of St. Clair Shores. We're having breakfast. She happens to mention it. She's showing me the pictures. Every bell and whistle in my head went off. I knew this was their house. It was everything that they described to me. So of course, they didn't want to see it because it wasn't in St. Clair Shores. Finally, I begged them to take a look at the house. They walked in, fell in love with it. We wrote it right at the kitchen table, and we closed it 30 days later. So a lot of times we as agents, we need ways to, even though we're automating the system, the Collab Center has what we call an agent preview. It has the agent preview, but it also has an agent recommended. That agent recommended is where you can put in a listing that didn't fall in their exact criteria, because I'm not going to send them a bunch of stuff out of St. Clair Shores, right? Because they only wanted to live in St. Clair Shores. But if I find 1 or 2 houses like this one, which was a gem just outside of St. Clair Shores, I can do an agent recommended, which literally pops it up in their Collab Center and says your agent recommends viewing this. Didn't automatically send it because it didn't really fall in the criteria I had set up. On top of this, you, the agent, can see everything that they're looking at. They can do their own searches. They can be on their phone and actually search with their fingertip. They can set up their own searches as well. But one thing I really like, if they modify the search that I set up for them, I get that notification. So if they're realizing, geez, I can't find it up to 250, maybe we need to go to 275. If they change their price point, if they add another location that they're looking at, I can see that as the agent, because that lets me know, hey, I might want to change my price point. I might want to add that area that they weren't originally considering to my list. And so I like that you are able to see everything. Now I'm going to just tell you, the biggest confusion right now is that agents, people on this call, right, we're all acting as agents, hopefully everybody's an agent or an admin, they're trying to download the Collab Center. And the Collab Center, by the way, is a full-fledged app now, meaning that your clients can download it from the Apple Store, they can download it from Google Play Store, they can download it from, they can download it right on their phone, on their tablets, and it makes it very easy. However, agents are calling me and saying, I'm trying to download it and it's not working. Well, that's where the big confusion is. The Collab Center is where they're collaborating with you, the agent. So you're never going to download the Collab Center as an agent. You have a way better app that allows you to see everything they're doing, set up new searches. You can go in and adjust anything on your listings. But let me tell you, if you haven't downloaded Paragon Connect, which is the agent app, you're going to want to do that now. Now, I'm going to give you a real quick little backstory, because I'm going to be honest, the first time I started using Paragon Connect, I absolutely hated it. And I'm not supposed to say that, but I'm just going to tell you as an agent, I didn't like it. And a lot of people tested it, a couple of years ago. They looked at it one time and they're like, yeah. So let me kind of tell you what happened with that app and why you're going to want to take another look at it now. So, and kind of still makes me mad. I sound bitter when I tell this story, but we all had this wonderful app. It was my favorite real estate app. It was called HomeSnap. I don't know if anybody else on this call remembers HomeSnap, but I loved this app. It did everything. You could be out with clients and you could literally walk in augmented reality, meaning you could turn on your phone's camera and it would show you where the property lines start and stop on the ground. So you could walk them. It would show you if there's a rock, you could see which side of the property the rock was on. It was awesome. You could go in, you could edit your listings from the palm of your hand. You could see how much business the agent who just sent you a really weird offer was doing. It just did everything that we needed as agents. The problem was Homes.com actually purchased that app, and with 2 months notice, they said, hey, we're going to be shutting that app down. So we, Paragon users across the United States, we were all using HomeSnap, and we were putting our technology, our MLS technology, we were putting that into HomeSnap. So all the new things we were building it into HomeSnap. So there really wasn't a great Paragon app. We didn't have one. We didn't need it because everyone was using this. Well, Homes.com made an announcement that they were going to kind of give Zillow a run for their money. And they said, hey, we want everyone to use the Homes app, so we're going to buy this one because that's the one most people are using. And they said they were going to build a lot of that HomeSnap functionality into their app. I'm going to be honest, I've used it. I was super not impressed. A lot of the things that I really depended on in HomeSnap just weren't there. And so then the Paragon creators said, oh my gosh, we need a full-fledged app. They had an app, but they weren't putting a lot of money into it because everyone was using HomeSnap, and that's where we were putting our resources. So long story short, when that happened, it sort of left Paragon without a fully functioning app. So when it started, it just had the basics, and it really wasn't very user-friendly. Now, I will tell you, in the last 6 months, it's been completely redone, and now you can do even more in that app than you could in HomeSnap. So if you haven't checked it out in the last little bit, I'm going to ask you, take the time to do that, because you now can do all those things. Like you can now edit every single listing field right from your phone. You could put a new listing in on your phone, but I would never want to do that. That would be painful in my opinion. You can pull up everything in resources that you can in Paragon right through the app. So there's so much. You can pull contacts and photos from your phone. The other day, I was talking to somebody at the grocery store, and I just live in Richmond, a little small town. And she said, hey, we did have our baby. They were waiting on their home search because they were going to have another baby. And long story short, we literally are having this conversation at the checkout. Within 30 seconds, I set her up in the Collab Center through my Paragon Connect app. She received the welcome notification and was already going in and favoriting houses while we were standing there. So less than 30 seconds, you can set up new clients, and you can go ahead and, you can see what they're looking at. But it's great when you need to set up a search quickly, you now have the tool to do that. All right, so I'm going to, again, I wanted to give you those couple background stories. So what you're looking at is the actual Collab Center for your clients. Now, the nice thing about this is going to be a notification that goes directly to your client's phone. And I can literally click in as a client. Now, on your phone, it's going to obviously display to your phone size or your tablet size, but I can literally click in. I can go see all of the photos on your phone. It's actually going to have a larger size, so it'll look a little bit more like this in a gallery style view. So I can go ahead and I can literally flip through photo after photo. And so right from here, and again, it's going to format to what size device that they're actually looking at. I can go in and I can scroll down, see all of the photos. I can see all of the details. I can also see all of the information from the MLS as far as room sizes, what it's built on. Nothing, extraordinary there. But we did just add something about a week ago that I think you're really going to like. So it seems like up to now, clients are getting information almost faster than we are as agents, right? They're going on Zillow, they're going on Realtor.com, they're going on these different sites, and they're able to see a bunch of information about properties. However, what I find is that we, the agents, right, should have that information. One, we should have more information that we could give the clients, and we should be able to find that information quicker. So now, no matter whether it's a My Real Source listing, a Real Comp listing, a GMAR listing, doesn't matter. When those properties go in, it also grabs the disclosures, it grabs the, if there's condo rules and regs or bylaws, it's actually displaying those now for your clients to see. So in my welcome email to the Collaboration Center, one of the things that I put right in the email is I set you up like an agent in the MLS, because that's actually what this is. It's the background of the MLS. It's the same data. It's basically the back end that your clients are seeing. But the nice thing is they can see more information here than they can on Zillow, Realtor.com, or those other IDX sites. Again, if the agent has added, let's say, the rules and regs for a condo or bylaws, I love when agents do that, because I hate the fact that we have to call so often to find out, can they have 2 dogs in this condo? What are the friendly rules that we need to know? It's so helpful when an agent just simply attaches those. You can also have things like feature sheets that they're adding, and they're just whatever the agent adds under associated docs is now available for the client to see. So they can see everything from the seller's disclosures to rules and regs to condo bylaws. They can see them for themselves now. So they're getting more information for the first time by going to the Collab Center site than they can on those IDX sites. The other thing about this is it's in real time. Many times your clients will call you and they'll say, hey, Olivia, why didn't you send me 123 Main Street? And Olivia looks it up and she says, because it closed 30 days ago. That's because, remember, those are using feeds, and a lot of times those feeds may not be updated. Sometimes they're not updated because the agent claimed the listing on Zillow, so it breaks the connection into the MLS. A lot of people don't know that. The nice thing here is it's always going to be updated because you are actually, let's see. So, okay. When I try to print, a question just popped up, so I'm going to read it really quick. When I try to print out the flyer for the showing, the picture is never there. Can you help me at that end? You know what, Eric? I'm not sure which flyer that you're referring to, but what I can do is I can call you right after our class today, and I can see what exactly you're trying to print out, and absolutely, I would love to help you with it. So I will reach out to you right after. So basically, not only can you give your client all the information, but you can give them more details. They can, of course, see the property history here. They can see that on most IDX sites, right? They can go in, maybe they want to keep their payment right around $1,500. They can go in and they can adjust the mortgage payment calculator to kind of figure out, is that going to be around their payment that they wanted to stay within? There's community reports, there's a whole lot they can do. One of the cool things about this, though, is if you get your client to favorite a listing. So let's say Olivia's got her client set up, they're getting notifications, and they're interested in seeing one of those homes. The best thing Olivia's client can do is literally click on that icon that looks like a little heart to favorite it, because this will send it right to you as the realtor. So when your client is clicking this favorite button, it's actually shooting it over to Olivia, the realtor, and it's telling her that your client wants to see this particular home. If they have a question or they want to flag it as a possible, they can also ask questions, flag it as a possible. Maybe they want to ask you something about it and then come back to it. If they don't like it, they can also reject the property from here. But the big one is if they're interested in a property, get them to click the favorite button. Because one, it sends it immediately to you, so you, the agent, can schedule an appointment. But then what usually happens is, and this happens to me at least, I call and I say, okay, when did you want to see this? And Mr. Fumagalli says, okay, hold on, let me call Mrs. Fumagalli. We'll get right back to you. By the time they get back to me, the property's pending. Kind of a wasted step, right? What if I told you they could give you a couple times and dates right when they're favoriting the property? That way, instead of you having to pick up the phone every time, you can go ahead and see if the property is available, schedule the appointment, and then simply confirm it, which makes a whole lot more sense. So it just eliminates those unnecessary steps. So to do that, there's a little right down here, there's a couple little boxes. This is where they can go in and leave a comment or a question for you. Again, that gets delivered right to you, the agent. But this is also where they can request a showing. Now, I don't want them to just give me one date. I always do tell my clients ahead, right in their welcome email, couple times and dates, because you might not always be available at that exact moment they are, right? I know we should be, but let's face it, we all have lives. So when this opens up, there's a comments box. And I tell my clients, just write down here in the comments box, put a couple times and dates that you're going to be available so I can see when I'm available and we can get you into the house as fast as possible. Then I can go ahead and set up the appointments. Once those are set, then I can reach out and confirm it. All right, so again, these are all things that the client can do to sort of streamline that process. When they're getting these notifications, they can see all of this right on those front pages, so they can simply scroll through. And again, all they have to do is click on it to see any additional details for that property. This also allows them to do a couple new things. They can actually compare properties now. So let's say Mary Rose, my good friend Mary Rose, who has been showing them properties, they've got it down to the last 3 properties. They're trying to make a decision. They can't remember which one has the pole barn, which one has the extra acreage. They kind of want to stack them up side by side. So you can actually select multiple properties. You can go right up here to compare. I can actually see those properties stacked on top of each other. So I can see which one had the pole barn, which one had the more square footage, which one was the newer build. I can see all of that when comparing those properties as the client. The other thing is it's easy to share from here. So they can share multiple properties quickly. They can share one property quickly. There's a little easy share button. They can share it via text, via email. Maybe they want to send it to somebody's messenger account on Facebook. They can also copy the link into an email they've already started, so they can do all of that from here. So again, a little bit more user-friendly experience for the clients. Maybe they want to drive by a couple of the properties. Maybe before they reach out to their agent to schedule a showing, maybe they just kind of want to drive by a few of them. They can also create turn-by-turn driving directions right up here. And this is brand new. They can also create custom tags. So let's say they want to keep track of which ones had that extra acreage, or maybe they want to keep track of the one Janice recommended. They could actually go in, name it whatever they want. They can save that tag. So I can go in and I can create one with whatever name I want. Maybe we want to call this Janice said this was a good home. Janice recommends this one. I can add that tag so that every time I find a property like that, I can tag it, oh, I want to tag that's the one that Janice recommended for us. So it allows them to very quickly sort through the property. So if they want to flag them maybe for 3-car garages, maybe they're looking for ones that had that additional acreage, they can flag it so that they can kind of sort through those properties a little quicker. All right, let me see. It looks like we have another question coming in. Oh, okay. All right, so this is basically that client side. Now I'm going to show you what makes this so convenient on the agent side, but right up here at the hamburger deck before we go, This is where they can see the property search that you've set up for them. They can also save their own property searches. So if they want to go in and use their fingertip and sort of outline the areas maybe in Rochester that they're interested in, they can actually do that too. So it kind of gives them their own navigation panel right over here. Now, I'm going to be honest, a lot of agents say, well, I just tell them to go to the App Store, or I just tell them to go to the Google Play Store and find it. I really don't think that's the best way to get your clients set up. I like to set up the original search, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So when they get it, they're just automatically starting to get those properties. Some people say, well, I just tell them to use it. It's not really as convenient, right? Because if it's not easy and it's not set up for them, a lot of times they might have a question, maybe they won't use it. So I like to have everything set up, so I just send it out to them. All they got to do is click on it and it's ready to go. So they also have a little dashboard when they download the app, so that there's this little near me. So let's say I'm standing in front of Mary Rose's fancy new listing. They want to get all the information. I wonder how many bedrooms this one has. I don't want them calling the number on the sign, right? I want them to see all the information for Mary Rose's listing, but I wanted to have my contact information being the one that they call for those questions. So that's another benefit of setting your client all up, is if you're setting them up and you're sending out that initial, what they're actually getting is they're getting all of your contact information on these listings. So if they have a question, they're reaching out to you. Of course, they're getting all the details for the property, but it's a lot more convenient when you're the one answering them. You don't want them calling the number on the sign. They can see how many new matches they got. They can see how many had price changes. So it's kind of all broken down. But I like that it's just simple. They get those notifications. They click on them. As soon as they click on a notification, it takes them right into that screen we were just looking at, where it's going to break down all of those property matches that they have. So again, one with no photo. I always hate to see that, especially when it's a $334,000 listing. I hate when agents do that. But as I scroll through, let's say that, so this client's going through, they're seeing a few homes that they're interested in. They're simply going in, we're favoriting those homes. Then it's going to go ahead and alert their agent that these are the homes that they want to see. Now you're probably thinking, okay, well, that makes sense. But how does it work on the agent end? Because it does some really cool things. So let me show you. When your client starts to favorite, not only do you get those notifications of the properties that they favorited, but what it also does is it makes it easier for you, the agent, to get them in these houses. So let me show you. On the agent end, I'm going to actually show you exactly how I got here. If they call you and they say, Mary Rose, I just got another notification. You know what? I think I'd like to see this house with the blue shutters. They're talking about this house, right? How does Mary Rose know which house they're talking about? Well, of course, everything is in the history, but you, the agent, can see everything that they're seeing in real time, just like they are. So let me show you. On the agent end, everything is under your contacts. Guess I have to go from my Christmas theme to my spring theme. Haven't quite got there yet. But under contacts right here, where you see my little gingerbread guy, when you click on that, there is view and manage contacts. This is where you're going to see all your collaboration center contacts. You're going to know that they're set up in the collaboration center because they actually have this view button right here. So if I want to see what if Mary Rose wants to see what her clients are seeing, she's simply going to find her client in the contact list. She's going to click on view, and she's going to see everything that they're seeing just like they are. So she's going to click, okay, I'm going to click into their collab center. She's seeing it just like them. So if they're talking about that house that just got sent to them today, I can see that. You can also see exactly when these properties got sent. I'm going to go over more on that in just a second. But that way, if they're talking about a particular house and you're like, oh, geez, which house are they talking? They got 6 houses today. I want to be able to see it just like they are seeing it. So when you go into their collaboration center site, you're both seeing it the exact way. They're organized the same way. And that way, if they talk to you about a particular house, you can be fully knowledgeable and say, oh, the red brick house that got sent to you today? Oh yeah, I see that one. The notification is listed right here when it got sent. So this one got sent 12 hours ago, but there's a history too, because you know what's going to happen, right? Mary Rose is going to get that call from her buyer who's going to say, Mary Rose, you sent us a house about a week ago, and it had kind of ugly shutters. We didn't think we'd like that house, but we drove by, and now we'd like to see that house." And Mary Rose is going to be like, "Whoa." So there is a history of every property that gets sent and when it went out to your clients. You can always find them that way. I'm going to show you that too. But I did want to show you that you can see it like they can see it, because I hate when they're looking at something on Zillow, or I can't see that. I want to see it just like they're looking at it. So if they have a question about a house, we can find that house just like they did. All right. One of the other things that I really like about this is, and we're going to talk a little bit about reverse prospecting. My friend Mary Rose has a really good story about that. But reverse prospecting is brand new. It just was released, I think, about a month ago now. I've been using it on my listings. It's awesome. It's not like the old annoying reverse prospecting that we all hated. It does some very cool things. I'm going to show you that in just a few minutes. But I like that it shows when I added the client to the Collab Center. I like that I can see when they last log in. Are they actually using it? Are they looking? Bob, I set up forever ago. Is he still logging in and looking at it? When was the last property he got? Maybe I have too much criterion and they're not getting enough homes. I want to be able to see all of that from my view, which I can see right from here. So I can see Bob got his last home on the 5th. He hasn't logged in though since December 2nd. He happens to be on vacation on a 2-week cruise, so I can't blame him. But I can see all of that from right here. But what I want to call your attention to is probably my favorite feature of this, and it's the favoriting. Because remember I told you, if your client is interested, you don't really want to waste any time, right? We want to get them into that home as fast as possible. But let's face it, if they have 5 or 6 homes that they want to see, the last thing I want to have to do is get a pad and paper and write stuff down, every favorite notification that I get from them, right? That's a pain. Then I got to look them up individually in the MLS. That seems like a stupid thing to do. What if I told you with one button, you could dump them all in a showing time cart, and you could have it order it so it makes logical driving sense. You're not driving from one end of town to the other and then back to that end. It'll actually do all that for you. And it'll even send your buyer turn-by-turn directions. One click. So let me show you how that works. So we're going to say that Mary Rose here, she set up her client. They're getting it. They're getting all these notifications. They've now got a few properties they want to get in and see. She got the notification on her phone. They favorited those properties. So all she has to do is go to their favorites. So I did a whole bunch of them just for the sake of time, but I'm going to click on this 18. If you get 18 properties to show, you are darn lucky in this market. But for the sake of time, I just grabbed a bunch without really looking. So here is our list of properties that our client wants to see. I'm just going to grab a few of them just to get a little bit shorter here. So I'm going to say my client wants to see these properties. And I hate my OCD I hate all the extra stuff on a page. So I like to just work with what I'm seeing. So I'm going to hit this check button. So these are the 7 properties that Mary Rose's clients want to see. So how do I make this really simple? Now, here's another little tip. Not that anybody really asked me for tips today, but out of the box, I hate the search results the way that they come. So let me tell you what I mean. I have been super fortunate in my 26 years to have mostly great agents that I've worked with. I would say 98% of the agents I've worked with have been fantastic. They've, most of them have become friends through the transactions. It's been great. There, of course, are those 2%. Those 2, the ones that never called you through the whole transaction, even when you left messages for them, or basically you felt like you carried the whole transaction on your back because their clients weren't getting return calls either. And you know those people. So when I'm getting ready to show properties, I like to have great agents like Janice DeGregory and Mary Rose and Ed Martin and people I've worked with I know do a great job. I want to have them at the top of my showing list. So if I've got 10 properties to show, that agent who never returned my calls, he might be number 11. He might be down here. Not that I wouldn't show his property, but I'm not going to make him first on the list. I can tell you, I'm going to go to a great agent that I've had the pleasure of working with. So I like to see that in my search results. And a lot of people don't know that you can add these fields right in your results to make it so much easier. So right here, I can see all of the agents who have these properties listed. But here's the thing, it doesn't come out of the box that way. So let me show you real quick how to do that. if you're like me and you're going to show these properties and you want to right in this view know who has them listed, well, all you have to do is go to customize here, click this fields button, and then just add it in. But let me show you step by step so you know exactly how to do it. So I'm going to take it out so we can add it back in. So I have agent name in here. I'll show you an even better one that I have in my real life searches. So I open it up, and basically everything in your search results is in this little box right here. Everything that's available are in all these fields, and you can add just about anything. There's 4,000 different fields, believe it or not. But I want to add some agent information. So I'm going to go to this little group here, and I'm going to say, I want to add the agent and maybe agent's cell phone number in case I'm showing it and I have a question. Maybe I want to have that, readily accessible. So I'm going to say, I want to have the agent name and phone number. I'm going to check that off, and I'm going to add that to my search results. Now, by the way, it always drops it at the bottom, but I don't want it at the bottom. I want it to be close to the address. So I'm simply going to drag and drop it exactly where I want it to go, maybe right after the price in my search results. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save it. Now look at how nice that is. Everybody's name is right here. I see who the listing agent is. You've been doing this long enough. You know great agents like Mary Rose and Janice DeGregory and Ed Martin, people you love working with, right? You put them right up there on the list. Having it in one easy view is helpful. The other thing I see too many agents doing is they're scrolling all the way over to the right to find price per square foot sold, or find information that they're looking for, or year built, or they're always having to scroll. If that's you, simply grab that column and move it where you want it to go. It will save it that way for you, by the way. Just makes it so much easier when you get your settings. You only have to do that one time, and that way it's always perfect. It's out of the box, ready to go. All right, so now what I want to do is these are the listings that I want to show, but I want to throw them all into a scheduler. I want to make it easy for myself. So I'm going to go up to my favorite button right here, the hidden button that the tech people have hidden so we don't know where it is. I think they do that on purpose. But basically, I want to go right to this actions button, or what I call the easy button, and I want to drop these into the showing scheduler of showing time. So I'm going to click on showing time, and I'm going to set up a showing time cart. It's going to ask me, well, when do you want to show these properties? So I'm going to say I want to show these. We're going to say we're going to show these to Barry Buyer. We're going to show them on Friday. Okay. Now what it's going to do is it's going to drop those in from the MLS. But of course, I know they say gas is coming down, and I think it did come down a little bit, but then with the Michigan tax, I think it's going back up. So long story short, I want to drive from one end of town back to the other, back over here. So how do we make this more efficient? So the first thing we're going to do is we're never going to drive from 1 to 2 to 4. I mean, how stupid is that, right? So we're going to go to this smart route, and we're going to put those in a logical driving order. This uses Google Maps. So what it's doing is it's now putting them in the right order of the way I would show it. But let's do this. So I love Olivia, and her dad was so wonderful too. I was very sad to hear the news of his passing. But let's say Olivia's driving around these clients. They've been longtime clients. And what we want to do is we want to put this in a way that it makes sense. But let's say they reached out to Olivia and they said, Olivia, we want to see these on our lunch. And I want to, just see them from 11:30 to 12. And she's got an hour notice to put this tour together, right? So what I want to do is I want to maybe start off with a couple go-in shows. So that gives us enough time to make sure that these appointments get confirmed, okay? So maybe Olivia says, okay, yeah, no problem. I'm going to get these scheduled. But what we're going to do is we're going to start off with these 2 go-in shows here so we get the lockbox right away, right? A go-in show is where you start that schedule. You immediately get the lockbox when it's confirmed. And that way I have some time to get these appointments confirmed with the listing agent or the seller, whoever it needs to be confirmed with. But I also like in the scheduling process, by doing it in a showing time cart, I like that I can see if there's any blackout periods. Sometimes agents don't allow overlapping showings. I personally don't know why some agents do that, but sometimes people don't like overlapping showings. So if it's blocked out or it's not available, I can see that on this screen. And I'm sorry about all the banging, but when they're taking out a bathtub, I think that happens. So sorry about that. On this screen right here, though, if there's a blackout time or an unavailable, I can schedule around it because I can see that right here. I can also see what time, the time frame it's going to take for me to get from property A to property B. So here I can see it's going to take me 14 minutes of drive time from property A to property B. I can also see this one only needs 4 minutes of drive time. So it helps me with that scheduling process. So right here, I'm going to say, okay, I want to start my showings at 10, and maybe I'm going to make it 10 to 10:30. I'm going to go ahead and save that one. There's no blackout, so I'm going to go ahead and schedule right on top of that. You're probably wondering, why do I see these stupid reminders? So let me just kind of tell you, this is all due to the National Association of Realtor lawsuit that we all dealt with last year when we had to pull commissions out of the MLS, right? And one of the things we're all supposed to be doing is making sure that we have those buyer representation agreements signed by our buyer ahead of showing properties. So this is kind of a reminder. If you click on a property to go to schedule it, kind of gives you that, hey, make sure you're doing that, just as a reminder. So yes, we're going to say we did it the right way. We've got our buyer representation agreement signed, and we're going to go ahead and start scheduling. So now this one is only 15 minutes away. So I'm going to say, yep, 10:45 to maybe 11:15 should be plenty of time. And I can go and set all of these up very easily. So I can go right down the row and pick my times. I like this also because if it does require access to a certain type of lockbox, like a central lock, will tell you on this screen as well. Do you have access to central lock? Do you have access to master lock? You will actually see that right here. So I like the convenience of doing this all on one screen. I think it really beats trying to do it one by one, trying to grab your phone and see where you want to start and stop. Turn-by-turn directions when I'm ready to go ahead and got these confirmed, ready to go ahead and send it out to my buyer. I simply click the turn-by-turn directions, send it right to his phone. Now he doesn't have to call Olivia every 5 minutes saying, what was property 2 and where are we going after that? Remember those calls we all were getting? Now you can go ahead and set it ahead so they know exactly where you're starting and stopping. The other thing, remember, we have to have automated technology, but it has to work for us as agents. Let's say Olivia is working with a for sale by owner, or let's say Olivia is just taking some relo buyers out for lunch in between a couple stops. You can also go in and add either a for sale by owner address, or you could go in and add that restaurant. Maybe you're just, taking them to Cruise and Mirror for a lunch in between showings in Rochester. You can actually put those addresses in so they're configured into their driving directions. Or if you're like me, I think it's just the fuzzy hair or something. I don't know why, but every time I get my cart set up, I get that call and they say, guess what, Colleen? We found one more house. And you're thinking, okay, could you have done that 20 minutes ago before I just confirmed everything? So even on the fly, and by the way, with the new Showing Time app, you can do this on your phone too. The old Showing Time app, you could not edit and add new listings to your listing carts. You can in the new Showing Time. So if you haven't checked that out, that's definitely a good one. If you don't know a lot about the new Showing Time app, we have a class coming up. It's our mobile class where you can actually see all the different apps. And by the way, we just opened up our hybrid classroom. So if you're having difficulty, especially if you're a My Real Source member in the area of Shelby Township or any of those surrounding areas, we now have a classroom where you can come and get help, meaning hands-on classes are back. We just finished a bunch of construction in our building, and our classroom now allows you to either take the class as you are right now in a webinar format. But if you're one of those people, and I have to say I'm one of those people, that likes to sit in front of somebody or might need a little help downloading the apps or just has some general questions, you now can come into our classroom. Now, I'm still at home today because I'm letting in the demolition crew, as you can tell. But as of the next Wednesday, the 14th, Those classes will be back in the classroom. Our first class, I think, is the Paragon tips and tricks. So if you're one of those people who wants to come into a classroom, who wants to physically be somewhere where you can get help, that will be back open starting next Wednesday. So I hope I get to see a lot of friends. I kind of miss it. Webinars are fun, but it's a lot more fun when we get to actually talk to members and, hear what maybe they're struggling with something, or maybe they're just looking for a little extra help. It's always nice when you're right in front of someone. So again, hopefully we'll see a few of you there. So what happens to me again, I get my tour all set up, I get all excited, and they call and they say, great news, we found one more listing. Great. So how do you edit this? Well, again, if you're in the new Showing Time app, you can easily add another listing. You can, in the old Showing Time app, it's there, but it's so big, it's so kind of hidden that it's really, really difficult. So what I tell people, just click the add listing stop, either on your desktop or in the new Showing Time app, and then you can put the MLS number in and you can go ahead and pull it right into your tour. Now, the only thing is it doesn't readjust it automatically for you, right? So it's going to pull it in, but you're going to have to decide where in the order you want to show it. Pretty easy though. I don't know if you know, but you can actually drag and drop properties. So if you just drop it in and you want to make it 2 or 3, you can kind of finagle it right into that order. A couple different ways you can reorder showings in there. You can obviously go in and give them new numbers. You could make this 4 and then this 3 or whatever you want to do. You can also just flip them around. Sometimes you don't want to start at the office. You want to start at your home, and it happens to be at the end of your tour, right? So you can always flip around and start with 7 instead of 1. Which will kind of do your tour backwards. So all these little cool things that you can do. Again, you can add additional listings. You can add other for sale by owner addresses right into your cart to make it a little bit easier. All right. The physical location, great question, Janice. The physical location is 22 in Hayes. So we had a giant building. It was like 8,000 square feet, and really a lot of it really was not being used. And so what we did is we made our conference room a little bit bigger, and then we made a giant classroom, and then we fitted it with these state-of-the-art cameras so that when you're in the classroom, and you ask a question, it actually picks up that question, will then zoom in on that person so that the people that are attending the webinar can still see the person, and they can ask questions to the classroom. So it's really kind of cool. So it's 22 in Hayes. If you just Google My Real Source, it will pop up, and that's where we have our classroom. So love to see some people again. And so thank you for reminding me. And I'll put the address on the screen at the end. So I'm glad you said that. All right. So once we've got our showing time set up, so that we've got our driving directions out to our buyer, you're probably thinking, oh, well, this all sounds good, but how do I set it up? How do I actually make this work for my clients? How do I set it up from A to Z so I don't miss anything? So let's actually go there next. So really, as I mentioned, it's so easy. It's a saved search. You're just really marrying a contact record to. So it's basically going in, putting all the haves and wants in, where they're looking, what features that they're interested in, what do they have to have, how many bedrooms, and then marrying it to Joe Fumagalli so that Joe Fumagalli gets any new property that meets his criteria. But along the way, they've added some new CRM functionality. And I'm going to tell you, that's really been one of my biggest challenges is I would like more CRM functionality in the MLS. And it makes sense, right? I mean, if we're putting clients' information in, we're setting up our buyers and they're getting all of this, I want that same CRM to print out my mailing addresses for Christmas cards at the end of the year, or maybe you send out, postcards to your clients and keep in touch with them. I want that to be easy. Well, the good news is that's coming. There's pieces of it that are already built in here. I'm going to show you that today, but even more is coming. So there's going to be some very cool things that you're going to want to do with that. So how do we set up our saved search? Well, we really don't want to do a minimum search because we really want to put in all of the detail that our client wants. Maybe they don't just want a basement, they want a finished basement. Maybe they don't just want a garage, they want a 3-car attached garage. How are we adding in that detail? So we really don't want to do a quick search or a power search. We really want to do a full-on detailed search. So we're going to go up to that search button right here. And By the way, this is where you can find all of your saved searches. This is where you can pull hot sheets. You can even, and I hope everyone's doing this, you can even pull how much inventory you've sold. So you could pretty much search for anything under here. I tell people, and a lot of agents don't do this, and please, please, please make sure, especially if you're a broker, that you're telling your agents to check their production, because here's what we're finding. There's a lot of MLS in Michigan. Matter of fact, in many states, when I worked at some real estate forms companies, some states only have 3 or 4 MLSs. Did you know in Michigan we have 34 MLSs? Do you know how difficult it is for these MLSs to even agree on data sharing, let alone rosters and things like that? So here's what's happening. We have all these different MLSs using different platforms. And we here at My Real Source, we have 97% of the state in our data sharing. That means almost all but 3 MLS platforms, meaning all but 3 MLSs. And we don't have our MLS because they are not realtor members, but all but 3 share data with us. That means we share rosters, we share data, we share all of that. But what's happening with some of these MLSs who've gotten on the sharing a little bit late, they don't share rosters. And what that means is if you are the buy side of a deal, and let's say and I'm not going to throw any names out, but let's say you're with an MLS up north and they don't share the roster in their MLS, that means they close the sale out with non-participant. That means you don't get credit. And that's a problem, because when you're running your stats at the end of the year, or if you're involved in things like the Hour Magazine project, or you're, they're running production for offices, it may short you on the credit that you deserve for selling that property. So it's very important that at least, I like to go in once a quarter, but it's very important at least once or twice a year, you're going into your inventory and you're checking you got credit for these sales. You've worked so hard, you don't want to get shorted on your sales credit. So you can find all of that under here, especially this time of year when we're looking over our numbers for last year. If you're thinking, I think I sold more than that, you might not have gotten the credit for it. So make sure you're going back in under inventory and running your production credit. You can go back years in there, by the way. All right, but in this case, we want to save a search because, again, we want to put in all their criteria and we want to marry it to that contact record. So we're going to go in. Obviously, you want to pick the type of search. If they're looking for vacant land, then that's obviously what you're going to pick. But in this case, we're going to do a nice run-of-the-mill single-family residential home. Okay. So now we're just going in and we're putting in what that client is looking for. And I know we have a couple new people on the call today. So right over here to the right, if you don't know what a field is calling for, click on that magnifying glass and it will give you exactly what that field is asking you to add. So in this case, are they looking for a condo? Are they looking for a farm? Or are they looking for a single family property? So we're going to say we're looking for a single family home. Just like I showed you before, you can customize any fields. You're probably thinking, well, I don't think I have zip code in my fields. Well, I recently taught in Detroit and they were saying, you know what, it's too big here. It's too big when we just put in Detroit. We need to narrow it down. So they needed zip code. So you can add just about any field to make your searching easier. But we're going to kind of just say that our buyer is looking to, I don't want all those leases in there, right? They're looking to purchase a single family home. They are looking for, let's say, a ranch style home. So I'm going to put in that they want a 1-story. They're putting in, maybe they just need a minimum of 3 bedrooms. If they get 4 bedrooms, that's great. So we're just going to leave the max open and we're going to put in 3 bedrooms. How many baths? A little secret here that a lot of people don't know. The baths total is basically counting the total number of baths in the house. If you're doing a CMA or if you're doing, and you want to be really, really specific, there is a field called full baths, half baths. So if you want to be even more detailed in your, instead of just saying 2 baths, which could be 2 full baths, or it could be a bath and a half. Did you know if you scroll all the way down, there is a second, again, the tech people hide them. I swear they do this on purpose. But if you go all the way down to the bottom, do you see where it says secondary criteria? Now, you don't see it generally because it looks like it ends there. So what you have to do is if you click on that little caret or that little drop down right there, and you scroll a little further, do you see these nice little fields that they've hidden? The half baths, full bath. By the way, you don't have to leave them down there. In my real search, they're all up at the top. You can drag and drop these. You can add additional fields. You can pull them out of the bottom, put them in the top section if you want. You can customize it. We teach a little bit more about that in the Paragon class, but don't feel like, I wish there was a field for this. Or the fact that they put acreage down here, I think it's really stupid, really. I mean, we all use acreage. So if yours is down here, don't be afraid to move that up in your criteria. Okay, so next thing, so maybe if you're looking for 2 full baths, you could actually put minimum 2 full baths here. But for the sake of time, I'm just going to say, yep, they're looking for a basement, but they're looking for a finished basement. And yes, they're looking for a garage, but they're looking for a 3-car attached garage. Where are we adding in that extra detail? So I'm just going to kind of give you a couple examples. Most times, if you are working with a client with very specific needs, maybe they're looking for a certain type of financing. Maybe this buyer said to Janice, I want to buy something on a land contract. Well, not everybody's going to take a land contract, right? Not every seller is going to say, oh, yeah, let's do that. Not every seller is. What if you just want to send them stuff that the seller has agreed to take land contract terms on? These are all those kind of special, unique things that we need to know how to do. So how do you find those? Well, those are really in the features category. Now, a lot of people get intimidated by features, and rightfully so. They can be, but I'm going to show you a couple secrets here that will never intimidate you again. Features work like this. You either must have it. A client is saying, absolutely don't show me a house without a finished basement. Okay, then we're going to go to features. We're going to go to this must have, and we're just going to type in finished basement. Okay, if I select that, clients are only going to get things that have a finished basement. Pretty simple. If a client says, you know what, I don't want anything on a septic field. Like recently, I swear in real estate, you can't make this up. If you've been doing real estate long enough, you know what I mean. There are just those stories that you go, did I really live through that transaction? So here in right by Richmond is a little town called Lenox, and in Macomb County, where I live, it is a pass and fail well and septic. So you have to get it tested, and in the winter that can be kind of a little bit difficult with the ground being frozen, things like that. But this particular house is in Lenox, and in Lenox we have a giant landfill. But let me describe this so you can get the full picture. The landfill. Literally, the fence to the landfill was in my client's backyard. So literally, I'm there in March. Imagine things are starting to thaw a little bit. You have that lovely smell of the landfill running into your backyard. So you have a challenge with this house, right? And now that wouldn't be so bad, except that it's a very, very hostile divorce. And 4 houses would be down is the shooting range. Okay, so just get this. You got the runoff from the landfill coming into your backyard. You have the shooting range 4 houses down, and you have a really, really hostile divorce going on. So the husband says, don't worry, you don't have to test the septic. It's new. I put it in myself and it's working great. Now, if anybody ever tells you you don't have to test the septic, those are definitely the septics you want to test, right? So it turns out it wasn't new. It was over 30 years old. And by the way, he put a swimming pool on top of it. So you have, again, landfill, runoff, the lovely smell, the shooting range, and then we have literally where the swimming pool is on top of the septic, and so things are bubbling back up into the soil. And you can imagine this, I thought I was going to have this house forever. But long story short, it ended up costing these clients over $17,000 at the table in order to close their home by putting in a engineered raised septic field, since it had all been crushed. So the first thing she said was, Colleen, don't you ever show me a house on a septic field. I don't ever want to deal with a septic field. I don't want to maintain a septic field. So for hers, that was her #1 request, believe it or not, was must not have a septic field, which I guess I can understand in this scenario. So all we did was we typed in the word septic under must not have. Anything with a septic automatically does not go to her. So we're actually customizing it and saying, hey, if it has a septic field, don't even bother setting it. water. So again, it must have, must not have, or then there's the third option. If you have a client, maybe Janice's client says, you know what, I either need a pole barn or an oversized lot to be able to build a pole barn because I have a home business. So that's where it has to at least have one of those items. Now, you're probably thinking, well, how do I know? You said there's something like 4,000 features in there. How do I know what these features are even called? Very good question, because I did not. And by the way, there are features in here that quite honestly, I couldn't even believe. Do you know there is actually decorative outhouse in here? I kid you not. I thought it was a joke. I actually laughed at the person asking, which I think I kind of insulted them, didn't mean to. But there are features for everything. So all you have to do is go over to the magnifying glass, and here's an easy way to find exactly what you're looking for. If you use that magnifying glass, it will break them down into categories. So if we're looking for that finished basement, all I'm going to do is click on basement, and I'm going to look for the word finished, and I'm going to say must have a finished basement. Let's use garage. Let's use our attached garage scenario. Going to go to garage type, click that drop down. Must have an attached garage. Remember how I said you can even do features like financial features? So let's say that that client says, you know what? I only want to buy things, Janice, on a land contract. I'm going to go to financial terms, find land contract, and say must have land contract selected so that they're not getting everything. There's all different types of financing. Another big one is HUD, Section 8, that's in there. But another big one that I find is with water features. So Mary Rose does a lot of beautiful waterfront listings. I'm never quite that lucky, but so her client says, you know, I would like a home that I can have my boat at my house. So she's going to go to water features. It's not just lakefront, right? It could be canal front. They could be on the Clinton River. Maybe they're even considering Harson's Island. So all Mary Rose would do is she'd go down to water features, and she'd say, okay, yeah, it must have at least one of these. So either lake frontage, river access, maybe river frontage. Maybe they just want a steel seawall that they can tie up. Maybe canal frontage would work for them. So as long as it has one of those items, then it's going to go right out to Mary Rose's client with the boat. So hopefully that is making sense. So don't be afraid when you're automating this. You don't want to send them a bunch of junk they don't want, right? We want to send them exactly what they're looking for. So we want to put in all their haves and wants. So everything in their haves and wants list is now here. If I want to remove something, I can just hit that X and I can go ahead and remove it. Okay, so if you've got too much criteria and they're not getting anything, I can go in and adjust that search. All right, but of course, you're probably thinking, well, we didn't put in anything for location. Well, that's obviously the most important thing, right? Is what area are they looking for? Now, I'm going to show you this next thing, and it'll take me a minute to explain it, but I wish somebody would have showed me this like 20 years ago, because this has always frustrated me, and up to now, I never knew this existed. So I'm going to show it to you. Hopefully, it will resolve some of your headaches like it does mine. So let's use Janice. Janice works with a lot of investors. She's been a broker a long time. And her investor friend comes to her and says, you know, Janice, I'm looking in Macomb County, I'm looking in Oakland County, but I don't want anything where I'm going to have flood insurance, and I also don't want anything where I'm going to have city certs like Centerline. You know, can you find something in those areas for me? Now, that's a big area, right? So we're talking, I think Macomb County has 26 townships or municipalities in it. And Oakland County, I think, had 63, if I remember. I mean, there's just a lot of them. So it's a lot of cities to sort through. Of course, you could go through the map, but that's kind of a pain. What if I told you you could create a whole list of cities in that county that you could just check in 2 or 3 and create exactly what you wanted, instead of trying to use the map and it moving all over? I never knew that existed. So if you're like me, you're going to like this next part. But let me show you 2 little tricks that make this easy. So if you've been a My Real Source member for long, or even if you're coming in from one of our vendored MLSs, if you go to area, you've probably noticed when you type in things like Clinton Township or Houghton, you get multiple cities, and that can be really confusing. Like, which one am I supposed to pick? Because if you pick the wrong one, by the way, your clients aren't going to get anything. So that's kind of frustrating in itself. So in my blonde brain, I guess, I always thought that there would be one city in the state called that. So I thought there would be one Clinton Township for Michigan. Just made too much sense, right? No, there's actually 7. Now, why there's 7, I'm not sure, but there are 7 Clinton Townships in the state of Michigan, which is surprising. How do I know which Clinton Township is the one in Macomb County if that's the one I want? Well, we use what we call federal identification numbers. So instead of getting confused like I did, here's how you can quickly find exactly what you're looking for. If you go down to county and you type in something like Macomb, it will show you the identification number is 50. That's a federal number, so we're not making those up. It's actually there. So now if I type in county in that line and I go back to area and I type in Clinton Township, and I promise I'm going somewhere with this, you'll see only one pops up. So I know that the one that starts with 50 is the one I want. And I promise I really am going somewhere with this. But let's say you wanted to do what I described earlier. You wanted an entire city list for a county or even multiple counties. How would you do that? Well, if you go over to that magnifying glass to the right next to area, did you know that if you change this right here to begins with, let's do begins with 50 for Macomb County, it will show you all 26 cities or municipalities, townships, cities, villages, whatever they happen to be. It'll show you them right here. Now I'm on 25, and I hate when you have to jump pages. So I want to see everything at once. So I got all 26 laid out here. So let's use Janice's example. Her investor said, okay, I want everything in Macomb County, but I don't want Centerline. I don't want to pay that flood insurance. So I'm going to probably stay away from Harrison Township, but I want everything else. Instead of having to go in and use the map, or having to add in all the cities and then go back and remove some of them, isn't it much easier when you see a whole list and just check what you want or uncheck what you don't want if it's 2 or 3? Just makes it so much simpler. You see how we just added all of those? And you could do that for any county. I think that's way easier than having to try to draw the map every time. But let's do both. So you could do it that way, or again, you could go in. Of course, I only want actives, and I'm going to go into our map because maybe your clients are even more specific. Maybe they're saying, you know what, I just want certain parts of this county or certain parts of this city. So in that case, we do want to go into search by map. So I'm looking for actives. I put in my criteria. I'm going to say maybe they're searching for, let's put in a price range too so we don't get a bazillion. Let's say that they're searching between 350 and 550. Sure we get enough here. Not that much inventory, so I'm going to try to be. Now I want to go back into my map and I want to actually highlight exactly where they're looking. By the way, if map searching intimidates, and I know I talk to a lot of people that say, oh, I get a little intimidated, stuff gets moving around. Here's a really easy way to use the map. Basically, when it opens this red X, which is your office location. You can change that in your preferences if that bugs you. If you want to work, you work on the other side of town, you want to put that in there, you could do that. But basically, if this buyer said to Janice, I want to live 5 miles from where I work, Janice could go right up here, type in an address, and I like this particular address because it shows a lot, and she could do a 5-mile radius. So this buyer now is only going to see properties within 5 miles of where they work. I tell people, because this uses Google Maps, try to just use the route street address. You'll have much better results. So instead of typing in Wessel Drive, that this happens to be, you could just do 41539 Wessel, comma, and make sure you use the city, comma, the city, because it's a nationwide product. You don't want to end up in Oklahoma or somewhere else in some other state, and now you're trying to, pinch your way back, if you know what I mean. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say, maybe they want to live 5 miles from work or 3 miles from work, whatever it happens to be. That relocates your map and now makes it a little easier to find. I could do a radius. Maybe they want to live, I'll use 1 just to keep it kind of easy to see. Maybe they want to live 1 mile from there. Okay, I can do that. Now, as you see, there's nothing in my radius. There's no properties that match my criteria. So first thing I would do is I'd go back to my criteria. Let's see what we have. Single family, more than 3 bedrooms, yes, basement, yes, garage, looking for an active. Okay, my criteria is good. So maybe I want to expand that map just a little bit more. So I'm going to say, I'm going to go back to our map, and I'm going to say, I want to just expand this a little bit, but I don't want to go 5 miles or 7 miles and now have this huge radius. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to hit edit. I'm just going to click on my shape here. Maybe I just want to expand it a little bit more to see if I'm pulling in any, and there's one that I would have missed because it was right on the cusp, right? So you can actually expand this just a little bit more without any frustration. Just click on that shape. It's going to open up and allow you to expand it. So let's use another scenario. Another one I didn't know was here. Let's pretend, let's go back to Janice's buyer who says, I don't really want to pay flood insurance. Okay, well, what in this area of Sterling Heights might require flood insurance? It'd be nice if we could see that. So maybe we want to go to this layers right here, and let's add in our floodplain. And let's see, when we zoom in here, okay, this might be an area that we don't want to get too close to. So I can see that, yep, this one on the FEMA floodplain shows that I might need to ask questions. Do I need flood insurance in these areas? So maybe I want to eliminate that particular area. Another cool thing that you can do here is, let's say this is Lake St. Clair, and you want to eliminate maybe waterfront for this particular buyer. You can go to the draw tools, and did you know you can actually draw a shape on a shape to exclude it? Maybe your buyer really loves Rochester, but there's this one area of Rochester he's not a big fan of. So did you know you can actually draw, even if it's a subdivision, you can even get really, really tiny. And I want to basically take it from include to exclude. So I'm going to click on this little shape. And now what you're going to notice is anything that shows up in that area will not be sent to the buyer. So you can actually exclude an area. A lot of people too they'll call me and they'll say, Colleen, I think Paragon is broken. I'll say, okay, well, tell me what's happening. And they'll say, well, I'm searching my subdivision. There's 7 signs for sale in my subdivision. I'm searching the subdivision name in Paragon, and I'm only getting 1 property. And that's because a lot of agents, unfortunately, spell the names of the subdivisions wrong. It's a free form field. So I tell people a lot of times, if that's happening, just search on the map. That will always bring up the results, especially because especially up north, it's really funny. I'm listing a property up in Rose City in another week, and they call this one subdivision 3 different names. Now, why that is, I have no idea. I guess it's been that way forever. But could you imagine trying to search with 3 different names? You don't know what's going to come up, right? So it's a little easier sometimes if you draw out that search. Let me give you another example. So Janice has got this buyer, and the buyer says, well, I'm searching in, a bunch of different areas. Okay, well, that's great. Janice can actually draw out those areas, and you can have up to 15 shapes on a map. So let's say Janice says, okay, they're really interested. They don't want to go south of 18. They want to stay pretty close to Canal here. They don't want to go too far north. They don't want to be close to that Hall Road traffic. So you can actually draw out your shape that way for your buyers. And again, you can have up to 15 shapes on your map. But when you're doing this, if Janice's buyer said, we'd like a little bit bigger lots, maybe they're, especially out in Bruce Township, some of these lots out by me are, they're 2-acre lots, but they're a subdivision. So maybe Janice's buyer says, we'd like to kind of have a little bit bigger lots. You can actually go right to the parcel lines of a subdivision and kind of got to zoom in a little bit, but it will show you, even if they're not listed, it'll show you the lot dimensions of those lots. It'll even show you a little Google overhead right here. So if your client is saying, well, we just don't want to be right on top of our neighbors. We want to be in a subdivision where we have a little bit more room, a little bit bigger lots. You can actually see that when you're drawing out your shape. And so you can kind of keep it to those neighborhoods. So hopefully that helps you. I didn't know that was there either. But these are all great things that you can do right under the advanced searching or this layer searching. Another interesting, and I love this lady. I did my very first deal ever with Flo Apke, and if you know who she is, I absolutely love her. We're very good friends now, but my very first deal that I ever wrote, I remember walking in, my all nervous, you know how you are when you write your first deal, walking in with my purchase agreement and sliding it across to her, feeling all, and I remember her picking it up and ripping it in half and sliding it back to me, and her words were, "Hey, come back when you know how to write a real offer." And I thought, wow, that didn't go well. So I learned very quickly how to write a much, much better offer. So, but it still makes me laugh. But she called me not that long ago, and she had a really good searching question, setting up a buyer for the Collab Center. And I said, oh, this is a good example. I'm going to use it in my class. So she was setting up someone in a really rural area, and he happened to be a volunteer firefighter, and he had to live within the city limits in order to maintain his job. And she was saying, I hate these maps because how do I see where this particular, I think it was Ray Township, if I remember, how do I see where it's small? How do I see where it starts and stops to keep my search for him in the right area that he's looking for? I thought that was a really good question. So let me show you how to do that. I'm going to remove this just so you can kind of see. So let's say, again, we've got a firefighter. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can see it a little bit better, but I want to make sure I'm keeping him within the township searching. You can go right to layers. You can select municipality. Now, it's good, but it still doesn't tell you very much, right? So what I want to do is I actually want to label the cities so I can see where the city starts and stops. Now, at this point, I want to zoom in. I would probably even want to change my map, to be totally honest, so that I could see more of the road itself. I can see right here the exact line that I would want to create my search on. So if I'm going to draw out my search here, and I know he wants to live in the eastern part of Sterling Heights, but we cannot go past because he's going, and they don't have a volunteer fire department. I don't believe in Sterling Heights, but you get the general idea. Hers, I believe, was in Ray Township. You could literally draw out that search, making sure that you are staying within those municipality guidelines. I did not know that it was there for a long time. Maybe you also, and if you really wanted to, go ahead and take this off, but if you really wanted to make it very detailed, you could even use the Google Man to create your search, and you could kind of walk the neighborhood. So much that you can really do there. So hopefully got some really good ideas of when you're really trying to hone that search in a little bit more, and you're trying to get exactly what they're looking for, use those features. Don't be afraid to, if you have to use the map, or if you just want a whole city list because they're covering a big area, those are some examples that I think will help. But for the sake of time today, I'm just going to go ahead. We're just going to type in Sterling Heights. We're going to say we're scary when you type in all of the city, and with pretty basic criteria, you only come up with 7 properties. But yeah, you feel my pain, I'm sure. All right, so we've got our criteria in here. We've picked what our buyer's looking for. How do we turn that Collab Center on? All we're going to do is we're going to go up here, and remember I said we're just saving a search, but we're marrying it with the contact record, so who it's going to go out to. So in this case, we want to do a save search as. This is the thing, if you don't remember anything else, remember that lady with the big fuzzy hair said do the save search as. That's the key. So we're going to do save search as, and we are going to name our search. So we're going to call this Mary Rose buyer search. Just make it easy. If I don't name them something, I forget, and then all my searches end up the same. So I'm going to do Mary Rose buyer search. Well, we got one more step. We got to marry that contact record. So we're going to jump over here to the contact tab. Now, if you have someone you've worked with previously, you can go ahead and pull them up from your contact records, but we're going to add a brand new person. We're going to call this Beverly Buyer. And we're going to put in Beverly Buyer's email address. One thing I do want to caution you here, and I get this call at least once a week, if you're doing this and you get an error, it's because that contact is already in your contact list. A lot of people will try to set themselves up as an agent, and they'll go, oh, wait, I got an error. Well, it's because maybe you've set yourself up previously. You can only have one Collab Center account for your client. And let me tell you why. Even if your client is looking for vacant land and single family homes and all these different types of searches, you still only want them to have one place to go to find it. They can have multiple searches. You can set them up with multiple different types of searches, but you don't want them to have one portal over here and one portal over here. And now, wait, I can't see this. The hunting land we're looking for doesn't show up in here, honey. What's that other site? That would be terrible. So that's why it only allows you to set a person up once. So I'm going to do BB Buyer at mailinator.com. And I'm going to set up that person. We're going to go ahead and save them. The last thing we want to do is we want to send out that notification, that welcome. Again, you can customize that. I like the one I have that says, hey, this is better than IDX sites like Zillow and Realtor.com because I'm setting up with the live MLS database. Right away, I can see that my buyer right off the bat is going to get 7 properties. I now want to send that welcome to them. My custom message is already in there, but if you wanted to put something different, you could. I'll show you how to set up that message too. But I want to go ahead and I want to send my welcome. One more thing too, if you're working with, let's say you're working with an investor and they're just getting bombarded with new property notifications, you can actually go into your options and you can say, okay, maybe I only want them to get it once a week on Monday morning at 9 a.m. or, maybe on Friday at 9 a.m. You can actually set it up for a recurring time. We'll say Monday morning at 8 a.m. Okay. So right now there's not a lot of inventory, so I wouldn't recommend that, but you can also do that for yourself. If you want to report everything that got sent to your client last week and you just want to get it once a week, you can actually set it so you get an agent notification with all the detail, recurring, again, at a certain time, maybe Monday morning at 9 a.m. when you're sitting down, you can see everything that went out to your client for the weekend. So you can even customize that. But right now, all I would do is send my welcome. I've got my pre-written welcome already shows up in there. I'm going to go ahead and hit send. And now they're welcomed into the Collab Center. They just have to click on it and they can see all those 7 properties that we just sent. Now, it allows you to do a little bit more. Because I always get the question, well, what if it's a husband and wife and they both want to get the notifications? No problem. Once you set up their site, right over here at the left, you're going to see a whole bunch of tabs open up. So maybe I want to add in the spouse as another person to get those contacts. So I would simply go to spouse name right here. I put in their name and I want them to get the notifications as well. If they buy a home, so Mary Rose does a great job. She runs out, she finds them a house, they close on it, and they're still getting those notifications. Don't delete the contact, because as I mentioned, a lot of people go in and they delete these contacts to get those notifications to stop, but there's some new really cool CRM stuff coming, so don't do that. All you're going to do is inactivate those notifications. Now your client stays in Paragon. You can create mailing labels to send out Christmas cards and maybe their tax info, or maybe you just follow up with postcards. You know what? All of that can be done here. Now here's where to kind of keep your eye on for future. You see down here where I've got these groups? Well, there's going to be some cool CRM customizations that are coming. So you're going to be able to do more in the way of customer relations and staying in touch with people. So right down here, I volunteer at my son's school a lot. I do like the water bottles and things like that. So I like to keep track of seller and buyer leads that come in from my son Jake's school. So you can create these custom groups to keep track of leads that come in. So you can not only organize them, but again, you could create mailing labels that way. So don't delete the contact when they buy. Just simply inactivate those contact notifications, and that way you can keep your contact here. The other thing here, if you wanted to use that agent preview, remember how I said if a client doesn't want yellow siding, and you're like calling you, hey, don't send me more yellow siding. You want to look at those beforehand. That's that agent preview. Matter of fact, I kind of jumped over that. Let me show you what that looks like. An agent preview allows you to see it first before it goes on to the client. So I have one client set up with agent preview right now. Let me show you what it looks like. Remember, anytime you want to see their collaboration center, I'm going to click on contacts and view and manage contacts, which I actually have open here. So let me close it. So I want to go to contacts, view or manage my contacts. And do you see how I have this approval button? I know that's a person I've set up with that agent preview where I have to see it first. I want to make sure there's no yellow siding here. So I'm going to click on the number 2. That's going to allow me to view it. So now when I look at it, oh, looks like white siding. Okay, so I'm approving this to go out to the client. If I see, oh, wait, this is yellow siding, I might want to not approve or disapprove it. That's not going to go anywhere. So my client's not going to get that if it has that yellow siding. So again, all you're doing is you're seeing it first. Once you approve it, it then goes out to your clients. So that's exactly what that is. All right. Again, if I click on view, I'm going to see the site just like they are. Everything is right there. If I want to see new property matches that got sent to them, I'm going to simply click on that and I can see it just as they're seeing it, which I like because, again, they're going to call you with questions at some point and I want to see it. When you go into a client, this is my Mary Rose client. Mary Rose, I even have you set up as a contact in here. This was a perfect day for you to come to class. So when I'm ready to go in, if they call Mary Rose and they say, you know what, we also are looking for some hunting land, around Rose City, and, do you have anything up there? Remember, you can always go in and add more searches. So Mary Rose can say, sure, you know what, I'm going to add another search for hunting land. You can always go in and edit the search you set up for them. So you can do that under that record. And they just released a seller side piece. I don't know if I'm old, so I remember when we had listing book, if you remember what that was. That is where you can also set them up as a seller. So this is really a buyer tool, right? We're setting up our buyer, they're getting all those notifications, they're getting new properties. But what if you're selling their house and you want them to see if there's any price changes around them? What if they want to see any new listings that pop up on the market that they're competing with? Then you can set up the listing you have so that it notifies them and gives them all those seller notifications too. So they see price changes, they see things if things close, they see new listings that go up around them. So it allows you to use those seller side tools too. Again, there's a message history. So if they call Mary Rose and they say, hey, Mary Rose, you know that house that we didn't think we were going to be interested that you sent last week? I can find that date and I can actually open it up. So this one, let me go to webinar box. If they said, yeah, we got it last week, I can go back to last week. I can actually open up what got sent to them and I can say, oh yeah, are you talking about the one with the purple shutters? Oh yeah, I see that. Did we want to take a look at that one? So you have a history that links you directly to the listing ticket as the agent, so you can keep track of it. All right, so I know I've taken you on a long tour of the Collaboration Center, and so we've looked at the client side, we've looked at kind of setting it up, we've looked at kind of managing the client after you've got that client in here, and what I did is I recorded this class because I know I put so much in front of you today. You might be a little bit overwhelmed. So please don't be overwhelmed. I recorded this class and I'm going to show you exactly where you can find it. Under our resources section, you will find recorded webinars. We try to record all of our classes with the exception of the new agent class, the new broker class, and photos. Pretty much everything else is recorded. So if you'd like to go back to this class recording and see something, or maybe you don't use the Collab Center for a few months and you're setting up a new buyer 3 months from now and you're like, okay, how did that lady say to do that again? You can go right back to resources, recorded webinars, and that's going to take you to basically our YouTube channel. But the easiest way to find classes is just click on videos. And maybe you want to know how to add a new listing in. Taylor and I teach you from beginning to end how to add new listings in and how to promote them out onto social media. Remember I said we have a mobile agent class. We'll show you how to download all of the 6 apps that you need, meaning showing time, everything from having your title work right on your phone so you can figure out rate sheets, how to have the showing time app, the transaction desk app if you use that, Paragon Connect. We even cover a little bit of Cuba Casa, which shows you how to do those floor plans for free. So a lot of cool things there. So this class will be recorded, and you'll see the actual date next to it. So you'll know this is the actual class you sat in, so you can follow it along just as you learned it today. In addition to that, as I mentioned, there are 3 new products that we've just released. I'm going to give you just a real quick crash course in less than a minute on where you can find those. One big problem, of course, we're seeing right now in some areas, not everywhere, is that, sellers for so long have been told, you're going to get all these showings. You're going to get over asking offers. This summer I listed a house. We had 19 showings in 2 days. We had 7 over asking offers. It seems like 2 months later, I listed a house right around the corner from it, same type of beautiful home, and we had no showings for 2 weeks. It was just freaking me out. I was trying to get more eyes on it. The seller's like, what's going on? It was such kind of it almost felt like for a moment someone turned off the showing spigot. And sometimes at the holidays, that can be a problem too. And if you're trying to show your seller, what a great job you're doing, even if you're not getting a ton of showings or you're not getting a ton of offers. How can you do that in this market? Well, the way right now to do that is one with reverse prospecting. Another great way is with this new tool I'm going to show you called Listing Stats. So basically where you're going to find this is under the Connect icon. The Connect icon is brand new. We just added it to your desktop, and it basically takes you into that new Connect system. So if you click on that, I'm just going to show you. Actually, I'm going to use my friend Hank here so I can show you a little nicer home, so you can kind of get that general idea here. I'm going to go in. It's always nicer when you get to show the $1 million properties than the $50,000 fixer-uppers. It makes a way better class. So what I want to do is I want to go into that Connect, and I want to use a tool that will show my seller how many eyes came in today from Zillow, how many eyes came in from Realtor.com, how many eyes are coming in from the MLS. So let me show you where you find that. You're going to go into Connect, and well, there's 2 places you could find it. On your resources section, one of the places to find stats are this inventories link. Now, this normally takes you to your single property website. So, and I don't know if you've looked at the single property website, but basically anytime you put a listing into the system, it makes its own private website that you can quickly share out to Facebook. You can tweet it out. You can put it on Pinterest. It's got all the high resolution photos. It's got all the room sizes for your client. But the only advertising it on this site is you. I hate it when agents share from Zillow and Redfin, and they're giving away all their hard work on their listings. If you're going to share your listing, share the single property website. So you're only promoting you and your other listings, sales, and pendings. The other thing about this is right underneath your property, and this is the new part, just released it, this is the listing stats. So if you want to send a report to your seller to show how many eyes came in from Realtor.com, how many eyes came in from Zillow, how many came in from the single property website, this will give you a detailed breakdown showing you that on this listing, my friend Hank got 47,000 hits. So search impressions, meaning they went to Zillow and they actually saw this in the list. How many people actually clicked on it to open the page though? Got 6,500. These are impressive reports to send to our sellers right now. These are the ones that when your seller's saying, what did you do for me lately? These are great reports to be able to provide them. And especially in a market where, they've been told for so long that they are going to get all of these showings, and sometimes we're not seeing that. So this is a great report. The other thing that you're going to want to keep track of is, again, under Connect, that is going to be the reverse prospecting and the price analysis tool. If you click on that little hamburger stack in Connect, you can go right to your listing section, and you can use links in your reverse prospecting, a lot of really cool new ways to advertise your listing. So I'm going to go into my listings here, or in this case, Hank Mendez's listings, and I have nothing fancy. And you can do the reverse prospecting. Reverse prospecting shows you any client, any agent that has a client that's set up in Paragon that meets this criteria. So these are ones I definitely want to reach out to. So maybe I want to tell these agents about this new listing, or maybe we've reduced the price. You can literally click on the email button, send out links. You could send out feature sheets. You could send out new enhancements maybe. These are all great ways to reach out to agents who currently have clients within the last 6 months set up that meet your listings criteria. All right. And then last, I'm going to show you one more. And I know I'm run a little bit over, so I apologize. But lastly, I want to show you that new price analysis tool. Sometimes it's just getting that price down 5,000 that gives you another access to 20 new clients that are set up in the system. So let me show you that piece too. And again, I'm kind of doing this at a high level, but of course, in our Paragon class, we show you this step by step. But let's say you wanted to go into a listing and you kind of wanted to see if you just reduced it a few thousand, would it make a big difference? So I'm in this Roseville, looks like a condo in Roseville, and I want to use the price analysis tool to see if I drop this condo a couple thousand, how many more? So this is listed at 108, and it has 74 potential buyers that are set up in the system. By the way, in reverse prospecting, you can see if they liked it, if they didn't like it. So you don't get to see the actual client the agent has set up. But what you do get to see is how many and which agent has clients that meet that criteria. So what happens if we change this to 99.9? How many more eyes would we get if we change it to just under 100? We had 74, but if we drop that price, only picked up 2, might not be worth it in that case. But sometimes in those price points of 250 to 300,000, you'll see quite a difference in, you might go from 70 to 140. That's definitely maybe one we'd want to drop the price on. So just ways to kind of work with our sellers in a market that might be a little bit changing. So hopefully that you picked up a couple time-saving tips today, or a couple new things that you didn't maybe know were in the Collab Center. There's so much here. And of course, you can find all of our upcoming classes in our classroom as well as via webinar. Under resources, under that education section, we have a whole online catalog of all of our free classes that you can take. So let me see if there's any other questions that I missed here. I don't think so. It ran a little bit over, but thank you so much for your time. I hope that you have found the Collaboration Center to be very helpful. Happy selling, and I will be sending a follow-up survey with all of my contact information just in case you had a question. And Eric, I won't forget about you too. I will reach out directly after class and we'll see if I can help you. All right, hope you have a great day. Thanks so much for joining us, and happy selling, everybody.